Do I even like James Franco? Well, that's a good movie, but that's a bad movie. That's a good movie, but that's a bad movie. Huh. Oh, sorry. That's my alert for any time there's news about my favorite mutant, Multiple Man. Let's see. James Franco is set to play Multiple Man in a new X-Men movie. You're tearing me apart, James Franco! Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. Now I never really had a reason to talk about The Room. Now I do. The Disaster Artist is here. The real life story of the making of The Room.
What a story, Mark.
Yeah, you can say that again.
I'm so happy I have you as my best friend, and I love Lisa so much.
So I am a fan of The Room. Well, scratch that. I am a fan of the midnight showings of The Room.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
If you are unaware, The Room is a notoriously terrible movie that has since gained a cult following to basically go to midnight showings and mock it, and kind of gets the same treatment of Rocky Horror Picture Show, where people yell at the screen and throw things and have audience interaction. But yeah, it's basically known as one of the worst movies ever made. So they made a movie about making the worst movie. And like I said, the plot is the making of The Room and the friendship between Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. And, you know, the trials and tribulations of making this movie and weird things that went on and all that fun stuff. It doesn't sound that interesting, but if you are aware of who Tommy Wiseau is, he's a crazy man. And he's interesting to watch, so it makes it more of an interesting movie. And this movie is also a sad point of life that, The Room kind of proves that no matter your skill level, talent level, as long as you have enough money, you can make your dreams come true. Isn't that right, Rebecca Black?
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday.
So yeah, Tommy Wiseau is somehow rich in real life, like this is a real thing, and basically threw a ton of money to make his own movie because he had the money to do so. It's weird. And another weird plot of this whole thing is it's actually kind of got the Manic Pixie Dream Girl plot going for it. You know, something like along the lines of Yes Man and Almost Famous and Love and Other Drugs. If you're not familiar with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope, it's when a girl comes in who's quirky and weird and, gets with a straight-laced man, pulls him out of his comfort zone, makes him do weird things, and, it kind of drives the plot that way. Except this time, Tommy is the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and it's a bromance instead of a romance. It's kind of interesting done that way. Very, very interesting. But let's talk about the characters. So although there is a ton of characters in this movie, something I'll get to later, there's really only two people driving this plot. The main one being James Franco playing Tommy Wiseau, the writer, director, and, star of The Room and all-around fucking weirdo. When I saw the trailer for this, I of course laughed and thought it was interesting, but I was also a little worried that it's basically, James Franco doing his Tommy Wiseau impression, which we all have a Tommy Wiseau impression. Don't touch me, motherfucker. But it's actually way more than that. He gets a lot of mannerisms and really becomes this character. I'd say it's something more in the lines of Man on the Moon when Jim Carrey became Andy Kaufman. James Franco really became Tommy Wiseau. It's not just him doing an impression. Like, he envelops this character. Really reacts with this character and just does a fantastic job doing it. It's just really, really well done. Like, Franco really brought his A game and, just did a fantastic job in this. He is great as Tommy Wiseau. You stop seeing James Franco at a point and you're just seeing Tommy Wiseau. It's just really, really done well. The contrast to that is James Franco's brother, Dave Franco, plays Greg Sestero, who played Mark in The Room and was Tommy Wiseau's best friend. Now, I believe I said in my Little Hours review that I prefer Dave Franco to James Franco, but in this sense, it's the other way around. I prefer James Franco. He is acting circles around Dave. Dave's just kind of being himself, and maybe he's not as good as I thought, and just being, next to people really trying. He's not doing a lot. His acting feels a lot like he's being the Karate Kid. Now, I don't know a lot about Greg and who he is, and he's not the big personality that Tommy was. So you're not sure. So I'm not sure if this is an accurate portrayal or not, because Greg has really stayed out of the limelight. He does, room showings and things like that, but he stays away from a lot of that. So it's, hard to say if it's an accurate portrayal or not. But I do see, him basically playing himself compared to James, who's playing a character, if that makes any sense. Another character I'd like to bring up is Seth Rogen playing Sandy Shelikar, who was the script supervisor on The Room. I want to bring him up because he's terrible. Everyone else seems to really be playing a character and playing this time frame and things like that. He's just Seth Rogening about. He's just kind of being himself. And I don't think he would have gotten this role if he wasn't James Franco's buddy. But there you go. So what worked well about The Disaster Artist? Well, first, of course, like I mentioned, James Franco is fantastic in this movie. Just really gets into this character and makes him believable. You feel for Tommy Wiseau. You get, the good, the bad, the weird, and the kind of destructive kind of personality he is. And I've heard he's kind of a toxic person to be around, and he kind of shows that as well, but also having more depth to him. It's not just, Tommy Wiseau being fucking weird. It's a lot more depth to that whole thing. So I really enjoyed that. And on top of it just being, a movie about a movie, it's really about this relationship between Tommy and Greg, and they do a fantastic job showing that. The growth of Greg and how he needs to start pulling away from Tommy because Tommy's so fucking weird. But, he's still, best friends with Tommy. In his way, he loves Tommy. But he knows he has to get away from Tommy because of how toxic he is. And this tear between them and a lot of stuff like that. It's a great, bromance showing. It's just this, interesting contrast of, I need him, but he needs me, so I need to be there for him, but I really don't need him anymore, and I need to move on, and how much time can I spend with him? And it's a lot of really cool stuff and just done really well. Now, as this movie, of course, was sold as a comedy, the comedy works really well. It's incredibly funny, a lot of references to The Room, of course, and just, references to the time as well as just weirdness of Tommy Wiseau and how that works. The comedy hit me really good, and it was an incredibly funny movie. Although there's this weird, you kind of want to treat it like The Room, where you yell stuff and whatnot, but then you're like, oh wait, we're watching an actual movie that people need to know the plot, because it actually has a real plot, unlike The Room. So it's very interesting, but the comedy is really good. But no movie is perfect. Where does The Disaster Artist fall short? Well, as I alluded to before, there is some very interesting casting done, and there's a whole lot of characters, obviously, on a movie set, a whole lot of crew and actors and things like that. But it's just really weird casting. It's got Josh Hutcherson, Zac Efron, Alison Brie, Megan Mullally, all these other different comedians, Bob Odenkirk, things like that, and it's kind of distracting to me. It's obvious they're all buddies and they want to be in each other's movie kind of thing. And maybe that's kind of meta with The Room, the fact that The Room was, Tommy trying to give his buddies a job kind of thing. But to me, it was sort of distracting where you're like, oh, that's Josh Hutcherson, and that's Zac Efron, and that weird cameo, that was somebody, and who's that guy? That guy's somebody, and it's, it can be distracting at times. And now, even though I said the comedy was really good, a lot of it is one-note joke, which is basically Tommy Wiseau is fucking weird, which is hilarious. But if you don't get it or like that joke, this may not be a good movie for you. Because, all the comedy is based around, like, weird stuff he says or does. It's very much, goofing on Tommy Wiseau. So if that's not your bag, the comedy might not hit. As well as, references to The Room and the goofy parts of The Room. So, again, if you don't know The Room, that might fall a little short for you. But of course, those are just kind of small nitpicks. My main real problem with this movie is the ending. And this is a real life story, so there's really no spoilers in it because it's a real life. We know The Room came out and what happened with it. But the ending is basically at the premiere of The Room, and basically at the premiere, everyone's already treating it like a midnight showing and laughing and, making fun of it and things like that. And then Tommy accepts it as a joke movie and like that it's a bad movie and things like that. And I really don't think it happened like that. And I know based on true story movies have to change things for dramatic purposes, and this might have been the better ending for it, but when a movie is so weird it becomes funny, or if it's so bad it's good kind of thing, there is the initial like, what the fuck is this? And I really would think the initial showing of The Room would have just been very quiet and weird and awkward, where everyone's just like, ugh, what is this? I don't think it would have been laughed at and made fun of right away, especially being that this is a room full of people who made it. I think it would have been more embarrassment and awkwardness. And I really don't think Tommy accepted it as a goofy movie right away, and I honestly don't think he still gets that it is, but I don't know. But anyways, I get like that was a good ending for it, but I just don't think that's how it really happened, and it really stuck out like, no, that's not right. I think it would have been a better ending to do the awkward, like everyone's like, what the fuck is this kind of thing, and then, do a dissolve or montage into people accepting it as this goofy, what the hell is this movie kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not a writer, but I felt that ending was very off-putting and a little weird. It's just like, no, it didn't. I'm pretty sure it didn't happen that way. Could be wrong, but I don't think it happened that way. So this is where I usually put spoilers, but as I said before, it's a true-to-life story, so we know what happened. There's no spoilers. So let's just go ahead and jump to the wrap-up. So The Disaster Artist is a lot of fun, and it's a bit of a love letter to fans of midnight showings of The Room, like, what happened with this scene and what happened here, and it's also a bit of a follow your dream movie, and then some good comedy. Like, it's just a solid, fun time, and some really good references to The Room, and even during the credits, they show like side by side, like Disaster Artist compared to The Room kind of things. And they did a really good job recreating a lot of the stuff and recreating the awkward acting that is in that movie. So in the end, my rating on this is split. So fans of The Room, I'd say see it in theaters. It's very interesting to see where this movie comes from and what happens and some good references to it and things like that. But for people who never seen The Room or have no idea what The Room is, I would call this a rental. I don't know if you're going to get as much out of it as someone who is a fan of The Room. So either way, you should definitely check out this movie. And like Ed Wood, the movie about making a bad movie is actually a good movie. Weird. But again, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it wholeheartedly. And James Franco is fantastic in it. So until next time, I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard, and you all betray me. I'm fed up with this world.